and welcome to 3DIT. Today we will be covering how to build a PC. There are 7 main components that you will need to build a PC. You will need a motherboard, CPU, RAM, storage, case, heatsink, and power supply. If you are building a gaming computer, you will also need a GPU. Keep in mind, it is a good idea to test all the components before you install them into the case. So we will start with the case. Make sure your case and the motherboard are compatible, and install the standoff depending on the size of the motherboard. Here, 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 and here for this size motherboard. Check now and make sure that the heatsink does not require any additional mounting brackets. This one does not, since it is the stock CPU cooler for an Intel CPU. Now with all that taken away, make sure to install the I/O shield and implement the motherboard into the correct location. This may take some time as I/O shields are typically devil spawn. Once installed, then screw down the motherboard off the standoffs in the appropriate locations. After we install the motherboard, now we would need to install the CPU. This is an Intel CPU, so it has an LGA socket. Please refer to our CPU installation guide that we have already made in a different video. Now that the motherboard is installed, we're going to install the heatsink. On this heatsink, all we have to do is align it with the different pins, snap them down through the motherboard, and then turn. Then we take the power cable out of the CPU fan and plug it into the CPU fan controller on the motherboard. Now it's time to install the RAM into the DIMM slots. Depending on the motherboard, you might have up to 8 slots in order to install RAM. On this particular build, we only have 1 RAM stick, so we are going to insert it into the slot closest to the CPU. Make sure to press down firmly until you hear both sides click and that you cannot raise it up anymore. Now it's time to install the power supply. In this particular case, the power supply is mounted above the CPU. Now that the power supply is installed into the case, make sure we grab our 24-pin connector and an 8-pin connector so that they will go into the motherboard. The 24-pin connector usually is on the right-hand side of the motherboard and slots in like this. The additional 8-pin connector is usually closer towards the top of the CPU and connects over here like this. And now we finish up by installing our hard drives and the necessary cables to make them work. In this case, we have already installed our hard drive in one of the 3.5-inch drive slots right here. Start by routing the SATA data cables and the SATA power cables to the hard drive and plug them in and make sure they are secure. Now, make sure that the SATA data cable gets plugged into the motherboard in one of the SATA slots in this area. At this point, you should make sure that your case fans are plugged in and that all auxiliary fans have power. In this particular case, the case fans are powered by these Molex power connectors. The last step is to make sure that your case buttons and LEDs will light up on the front. Consult your motherboard to make sure that the pin layout is correct and plug them in into the designated area. If you do not have your motherboard manual, there's a good chance that you can look it up on the internet and find a digital copy from the manufacturer. Any other auxiliary USB power functionality on the front of your case should also be taken care of at this time. Thank you for watching today, and I hope that this video helped you learn how to build a PC.